Penguin Random House Audio presents The Fantasy and Necessity of Solidarity by Sarah Schulman. Read for you by Rosalyn Coleman Williams. Dedicated to Matt Brim, a great friend. Ask what you can do, not what you can lose. Ghadir Shafi, Palestinian queer activist. 1. Solidarity, Fantasy and Necessity. When solidarity is rooted in inequality. Perhaps I am a novelist because I have always been fascinated by how people understand their own lives. Not how we wish they would or think they should, but how they actually do. So I wasn't surprised that one snowy night in 2023, I had my mind opened by a conversation with a brilliant woman. Not just anyone. That evening, I had the great fortune to have dinner with the American writer, intellectual, and consummate New Yorker, Vivian Gornick, author of The Romance of American Communism and The Writer's Bible, The Situation and the Story. Vivian is a wise woman who has lived through some of the eras of American radicalism that have most inspired me. After a fascinating conversation about her historic experiences of the American left and of second-wave feminism, Vivian asked what I was working on. A book on solidarity. What are you saying about it? Well, it was early in the project and I hadn't found a summary sentence yet, but I just jumped in. Since solidarity is a relationship rooted in inequality, it is by definition fraught, and so... Wait a minute. Vivian was confused. Inequality? Solidarity, she explained clearly, is a relationship of equals joining together to create a powerful force for change. And suddenly I realized how much my grappling reflected a different world than the traditional and perhaps original concept of people in similar conditions joining together. Workers striking for better wages, safer conditions, and meaningful labor. Tenants uniting to extend rent restrictions and for more affordable, supportive housing. Black people defying white supremacy to win access and autonomy. Women standing up to men, doctors, and government toward the goal of safe, legal, and affordable abortion. People with HIV fighting for treatment and against stigma. All these different kinds of communities unite internally to oppose and thereby transform the forces that oppress them. And of course, Vivian was right. Sometimes this horizontal unity is enough to move forward toward justice. After all, if people living in shared conditions can muster enough cooperation with one another, they often have the strength to better their lives. But in our age of globalized capital and its manifestations in government, we can't stand up to conglomerated power by ourselves. We live in a country with a court system that often defies the Constitution and leaders who don't abide by their stated values. Americans are in a time of a co-opted press and a class-stratified educational system accountable to congressional committees. Our lives take place within complex structures of illegitimate power that are both entrenched and invisible. Starbucks workers can organize, but not if the Supreme Court undermines the National Labor Relations Board. University presidents, faculty, and students have academic freedom unless they speak out against mass murder of Palestinians and other people the system sees as disposable. Black people can vote until they live in a state whose rulers use their power to obstruct them. Everywhere we look, social control is consolidated into fewer and fewer hands. Counterculture, where the imagination of freedom is perpetually conjured, now must hide from marketing, branding, and monetization to influence the center from the margins. By holding solid control of public discourse and relying on police violence, the machinery of dominance can make it impossible for the afflicted to win justice on their own steam. At that point, the collaboration and fellowship of people at other levels of power becomes necessary to create more justice for all. That is the idea of solidarity that I engage in this book. Recognition by bystanders and conflicted perpetrators of injustice against others, followed by creative and risk-taking acts of correction to the vast differences in comfort and safety among us, creates the people power necessary to reach the tipping point that transforms lives and, in the most extreme conditions of brutality, actually saves lives. The opposite of oppression is not only freedom, but also belonging. It is the construction of a listening and acting body around the suffering person that creates a context for transformation. The standard wisdom is that we can't change other people, but other people change me all the time, for better and for worse. Both committing and allowing injustice imposes tragic change. Stopping or reducing it creates the paradigm shift, building the people power needed to realize the necessity of positive new beginnings. And participating in this kind of change is among the most meaningful uses of our one and only life. Solidarity is the essential human process of recognizing that other people are real and their experiences matter. It is based in learning to evaluate the state of the world by the collective, and not only by our own individual experience. Solidarity is the action behind the revelation that each of us individually are not the only people with dreams. Fantasy, from bystander to friend. Because I am not religious, my point of view is that heaven and hell take place on earth. Therefore, our destinies are created by mortals, not by gods, and are in our hands. While it is impossible for every part of every life to be heavenly, hell is too often a humanly imposed reality, the direct impact or long-term consequence of being overwhelmed by someone else's abused power. So when we are trapped by other people's actions, we dream of relief. When we are being violently attacked and can't make it stop on our own, we dream of someone else physically removing the bully, underminer, police officer, soldier, father, rapist, or false accuser. We dream of a literal person driving them away, or even better, holding them down and making them understand their crime. We dream of change, of the end of pain and the beginning of amends. When the actual bombs fall, human beings wish to survive, for their loved ones to survive, for their world to remain intact or recoverable. And this imagining includes some outside force, other people, stopping the planes from taking off. It could be the citizens of the aggressor nation refusing to serve in their military. Perhaps the obstruction will come from employees at corporations or students and teachers at corporate and public universities, disrupting financial and cultural investments in the oppressing forces. It can be writers and artists refusing to prop up cultural institutions that normalize perpetrators and the values that uphold them. It can be union members refusing to ship arms, or clergy refusing to be complicit in the name of prayer. As the helpless hide in flimsy corners, braving the violence to speak the truth, to report the facts, to teach the reality, those under attack imagine others they do not know coming to conscious awareness, risking their own safety in turn, for strangers they may have been raised to despise or ignore. The afflicted courageously risk their remaining freedom, status, and very lives in hopes that someone out there will listen, hear, and act. And occasionally,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?